Today, I want to talk to you about identifying your fascination and how you can use it to stop doing what you hate. Whether that's a job, business venture, or a certain academic path. Alright, so welcome to Mindset Redo. If you're new around here, welcome. Over here, I share with you some unique insight and ideas through my perspective that work for me and might work for you. You can use directly in your own life to break through mental roadblocks. Ideas that help you develop into a more independent thinker while on the path to your passion. So why is this so important to act in line with our fascinations rather than the external outcomes that we want? Because when we care too deeply about an outcome, we believe our inner sense of happiness is dependent on how much of that outcome we actually have. Our fascinations already give us an inner sense of happiness. That's why if you were to lose everything right now, your fascinations about frogs would still make you happy, if that's your thing. Connecting with our fascinations and bringing it to life fruition is where you find fulfillment. This is how passion and the creative process comes together. That's why there's certain things we're able to do for hours on end. Although we lack that state of flow when we're too focused on an outcome. We haven't evolved the fascination all the way to a process that we love doing yet. When we're entirely outcome focused, we've only identified what we would like to have. Let's take someone who has dedicated years and years to building a business within a business model that they found to be simple enough for them to do so. And after so long, after all that work, they finally figured out a process that consistently generates millions of dollars in revenue annually. They finally reached their goal, their outcome. But now if they stop doing what it took them to get there in the first place, they will lose it all. Now normally if that was in line with your fascination, that would not be a problem. But in this person's case, they hate every single minute of that business's upkeep. They've imprisoned themselves in their own goal for the sake of an outcome. The question we often forget to ask before we start something is, am I able to keep this process up for at least 3 years or longer? Or is this a means to an end to get to an actual process that I love to do? If you're not loving the skills you're getting, you're hating the process you have to go through every single day to maintain it, or doing what needs to be done because you don't feel like it, because you've decided you're committed to the process regardless, and you will have those days, then it's time to take a step back and talk about if what you're going through is going to be worth it in the long term. Yeah, I hate the rat race, but we talk so often about the 9-to-5 rat race. What about the entrepreneurial rat race? Because when I say I hate the rat race, I'm talking about both, because a rat race is a rat race if it's a rat race. Entrepreneurs are not exempt from the rat race. We can still get caught up in doing something we hate for so long. The only difference is you'll catch some of us bragging about 12-hour days. But I honestly think people from both sides brag about 12-hour days, which I don't know why. Anyway, that's besides the point. It doesn't matter if you're in a job you hate or building a business you hate. You're gonna have to grind like crazy at the start of anything regardless. So depending on what you do, long days are inevitable. But if you're gonna put in 12-hour days, there's no point in hating what you're doing during that entire time. That's when it becomes a problem. Now, as a former hate what you do type of guy, I wanna share a few things I've learned to not do something I hate doing. Because no matter how obvious it is to just stop doing what you hate doing, it's so damn hard. Now, you might hate parts of what you do, but not everything you do. So let's talk about the difference between hating everything and then hating something. Because I do think it's important to have some things that you hate doing, even when it's something that you love. Because that's gonna make the experience more whole. Because chances are when you only hate some of the things, and there's probably something that is there to push you to the next level. Like for example, I used to hate being on camera. I would literally find any possible way to zigzag around being on camera. And I think it had something to do with my self-image, and it's because I never saw myself as someone who was able to go on camera. But one day I decided I should change that identity, and you know what? It ain't so bad right now. To this day, I still hate the risk of possibly being in the public eye. But the fulfillment from the value and perspectives my video can bring people makes me okay with running that risk. Plus, it's only like 13 of you guys here. It's kind of like our own cool little club. So me not being on camera was an example of me not enjoying a certain part of building out my business, which actually turned into one of my favorite things to do when it comes to running it. Me working as a carpet was a case of me all around not enjoying what I was doing. There was no part about me waking up at 6 a.m. just to clean someone's rental for 8 hours a day that I found any value in. And it's because of what falls in line with what fascinates me. What fascinates me is how humans have the ability to consciously decide and change their behavior, as well as diving into my own psychology as well and seeing what's wrong with me, and how groupthink works too, which is why I love crypto so much. It's literally just a giant graph of human emotion. Between you and me, you could literally just study the fundamentals of group psychology and become a millionaire in crypto, just because of how sentiment-based the space is right now. There's literally a dog that makes people laugh that's worth $60 billion. You didn't hear that from me because I'm not a financial advisor, but through my financial opinion, that's how I would approach things if I was new to getting into crypto. If you notice, all my fascinations fall in line with what I talk about here on this YouTube channel. So the process of gathering information transformation. Adding a little creative touch just becomes natural. Whereas when I was a car prep, I was as creatively starved as when I went to university. I learned nothing about what I wanted to learn about the brain in the way that makes most sense to me, because I had to turn off my brain for 8 hours a day just to get through the day. If the roles were reversed though, and someone who loves taking a car from road trip mode all the way to brand spanking new, or even someone whose fascination lines up perfectly with what university has to offer, their fascination would lead them to absolutely hate what I'm doing here right now. Now, the reason why I bring those examples up is because I do believe there's values in like going through shitty situation, but the shitty situation is going to be subjective to you. You're not going to experience the same shittiness of situations as someone else might. So when I was working as a car prep and going to university, I knew in my soul there was something that lines up with my fascinations way better. So if you're here right now, you're probably in the process of identifying what your own personal fascinations might be and what things you can do to line them up with what you want to do as you go forward in life. So let's figure that out for you. This is so much easier said than done, because you're not going to find what you want to do if you're actually actively looking to find it. You're going to have to almost stumble across it as if you've never seen it coming. Unless you already know that is, obviously. But if you don't, this is where you're going to exercise trial and error. Not trial and error to find what you like, but trial and error to find what you don't like. Because before you find what fascinations fall in line with what you want to explore, at the start, it's insanely hard to define exactly what those fascinations actually are. As of right now, those fascinations are probably more of a feeling, I'm guessing. If you can define it, I would highly suggest you would write it down on a piece of paper and then just sort of build off of it over time. If you can't define it, use this unorthodox method I use by identifying what you don't want. So over time, once you've exhausted all your options, you're only left with the things that you do want. The best way to find what you want is to experience what you hate by going down sort of a false path. So how do you identify this false path, and what is this false path to begin with? Well, you'll know this is a false path because it's going to track you down for all of the wrong reasons. And you're going to let it, and here's why. This false path you're going to go down is going to track you through the promise of fame, money, attention, jealousy, approval, all of the things that won't give you lasting fulfillment. And to find your true path, it's so important to identify what it feels to go after those things that are so fleeting. So when you hear that whisper to try something out and you're not entirely sure on why you want to actually do it, after watching this video, you're probably going to be more aware that's going to be for one of those reasons. But you still got to see for yourself, because at this stage your intuitive gut feeling could be mistaken, and even though you might be thinking it's a false path, this could very well actually be a genuine pursuit. More importantly, if it's not your genuine pursuit, you'll be more aware of a feeling of emptiness when going down a path that only fulfills ungenuine pursuit, and you'll be more likely to avoid it the next time. So just don't intentionally pass on things, because you won't know until you know. So if you found a way to identify what that fascination is and what process actually goes with it, don't ignore it just because you think you found it too soon. That's like finding someone you could call your soulmate and breaking up with them just because you haven't gone through enough hardships yet to deserve to be with them. Like, you don't have to be a masochist when it comes to finding your passions, okay? The goal here is to allow the emotions in your body to unsync from the shallow pursuit. Now you might be a little scared here, wondering, what if you get trapped into a job or business you hate doing for 40 years? This method is a little unorthodox, I'll give you that, and that's a real possibility. Although this is where you become conscious of your goal here. You must decide how you're going to act before the situation presents itself. Before you go on this quest, define your intention and envision the feeling you want to feel while you're doing work that you actually love. The only way you could get trapped if you let yourself get too comfortable, and don't make that decision to just move on. Decide to think greater than how you feel before the moment presents itself, because if you don't, you will act in accordance of the feelings of the memorized self. That's why before the moment comes where you're in a job or business you dislike, you're not going to settle until you know for a fact you're going to be able to enjoy the process and habits it's going to take to either keep the job or maintain the business over a very long time. Don't be afraid to move on, but be afraid to be in a spot that emotionally drains you rather than gives you that spark to keep pushing. You have to understand that there is always something you can do. If you feel as if once you leave your job or change businesses, then you're going to be faced with a lack of options, then you need to become more abundant on what you're capable of doing. Where there's community, there's opportunity and demand, because community is the bedrock of all business. That's why there's dog money floating around and people getting paid to be a full-time Netflix viewer. And Squirrel Census, the organization that tells the story of gray squirrels of Inman Park, their fight for freedom from human suburbia, the jobs they do, and their family lives. I'm dead ass, all those jobs and businesses actually exist. You feeling trapped is a mind-made narrative you tell yourself. Watch my video on ego to learn how to break narratives like these. I know I heard this from someone else, but before you actually find what you want to do, it's going to come to you as a whisper. It's not going to slap you silly in the face. It's going to be like,
hey, come over here. Come on, try.
And most of the time it's gonna be wrong. At least for the first few times it will be. But every single time it's wrong, you're gonna be gathering more and more information to become closer and closer to becoming right. So the next time you hear that whisper, make sure you follow it, because you could be the next lead journalist on Squirrel Sense. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of the video. For more exclusive tips and to chat with me one-on-one, you can check out the first link in the description below to be added to my mail-in. And leave a like so we can share these ideas with more people. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end.